Here on Kiwi. Well, yesterday on the web, as is probably suitable for this kind of policy, Labor released their ICT, Information Communications Technology policy. Now, there's a whole lot of stuff in it, but one of the main things, Labor is promising an independent review of the UltraFast Broadband rollout into urban and rural areas. That's just one of those things. So I really want to go through a bunch of stuff with Clare Curran, who is responsible for this area of things in Labor, and she joins us this morning. Morning, Clare.
Hello.
Hello. You can hear me? I can. Oh no, maybe you can't. Now you can hear me. Good morning, Clare.
I can hear you.
Oh,
good morning.
Good morning. Now, now the policy release yesterday says that that Labor is keen for an independent review of the UltraFast Broadband rollout. Are you not happy with the way the UltraFast Broadband plan is going at the moment?
Well, we opposed the legislation that was put in place to underpin it for a number of reasons, some of which will make your eyes glaze over, so I won't go into them. But as a result of that, there were some fundamental principles, and they were about affordability for New Zealanders to actually be able to afford internet access and under the UltraFast Broadband plan, and also getting access to it and how quickly they'd get access to it. We were really concerned about handing the vast bulk of that contract to one player like Telecom, who did get it, because it's not going to be in their interests to roll it out quickly. They've already got an existing copper network, and we believe that the plan that the government's put in place favours them doing it on their terms rather than using government money to do it as quickly as possible for the benefit of the vast majority of New Zealanders.
But wouldn't the problem be introducing competition, is that that companies would be less likely to invest in a network that they may not get the full benefit of customers from?
Well, there's always going to be issues around the competition side of it, but if you're investing large amounts of government money, of taxpayers' money, people's money, into a big project like that, surely you want to put at the heart of that the ability for New Zealanders to get access in the quickest possible time frame for the the least amount of money, I suppose. So what we are concerned that what you're going to end up with is not perhaps the best that New Zealanders could get. Take, for example, schools. Now, the government's made a big deal about how it's going to take fibre to the schools. Well, yes, it is. It's going to take fibre to most schools. Not all schools are going to get it that quickly. And guess where those schools are? Many of them are in the poorer parts of New Zealand. But it's going to take them to the school gate. And if you've got a rich school, a wealthier school, you are going to be able to afford internally to connect. Whereas the poorer schools, who don't have a lot of money out there in their communities, are going to take a lot longer to be able to make use of it.
Right.
That's one of the issues that we think need to be addressed, and we certainly will be looking at how we can improve that.
Okay, is any of this going to slow down the process of putting a bigger pipe to my house in Auckland so I can get Breaking Bad a whole lot faster?
No, we would like to do the opposite. We'd like to make sure that if you live, no matter where you live, you will be able to get it faster, and we'll be keeping a really close eye on how it's being rolled out. Because, at the moment, parts of New Zealand already have fibre. There isn't a lot being talked about with regards to that. And what we're concerned is that what this new company is doing is actually going to be competing with those companies rather than actually taking the fibre to where it isn't.
Okay. Another area that the policy looks at is regulation across the broadcasting and telecommunications sectors to prevent dominant broadcasters, including Sky TV, gaining a stranglehold on emerging internet TV. So some concern there that as these pipes start connecting to people's houses, that it will be filled up by one major player.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, at the moment, we've got the telecommunications industry, which has got, the big telcos in it, and they have a regulated environment where the Commerce Commission comes in and just says, hang on a minute, there's not proper competition going on here, you're rorting the system, whatever. Yes, we'll put in place some measures to make sure you don't. In the broadcasting sector, which is rapidly converging with telecommunications, there is no regulation. So a monopoly can much more easily take dominance, and we're worried that particularly as Fibre enters the scene and becomes really important, that a monopoly can gain dominance without any rules in place at all. And again, it comes back to the consumer. Are they getting the best deal? Is what's happening being done in their interests? That's where governments need to think about intervening, and that's why we have rules. We're not pushing for heavy-handed rules at all. What we're saying is let's have an equaling up between these two sectors. They're already joining up together. They're already becoming one. Let's just have the same set of rules in the broadcasting area that we have in telecommunications.
Okay, so as it currently stands, I mean, Sky has is the dominant player for a lot of the premium content that comes from overseas. TVNZ and TV3 try to bid against Sky for a lot of these great shows that say HBO shows or AMC shows that come from the States. Do you see that there's a risk that as people start getting the stuff not over the air or not digitally but through the pipe that comes to their house, that it will only be provided by Sky TV and not, say, another company coming into New Zealand like Netflix?
Well, yeah, that's right, but it might not just be Sky. So let's not just pick on Sky. It could be Google TV, or it could be another big player that enters the market and takes dominance. And it's not just about content that's coming from outside of New Zealand. It's also about our own local content and whether or not there's an environment to create that, or is it just too hard? And or are we creating content inside our own country that's local, but where you can only get access to it if you have to pay a subscription to it? Now, they're really big, important questions because, our local content, take children's TV, for instance. We don't have a lot of locally produced kids programs in this country. Why is that? Because there's a lot of cheaper programs that are being brought in from overseas, and as a result, we're not creating an environment for our kids growing up in where they're seeing their own culture reflected back at them. That's an area where, a government can say, hang on a minute, we need more local content. We've got to find a way to deliver that to everybody, not just make it available to people if they're paying a subscription.
You've said that you would look at expanding the online film and TV archive NZ On Screen to become a platform for accessing New Zealand-made content such as movies, TV shows and also music. Would this be another kind of online public broadcaster? I mean, what is that?
Well, I think you're going to have to wait a bit longer, a couple more weeks, to hear more details around public broadcasting and our plans for it. But certainly the online world is rapidly becoming the way that many people are accessing content. And again, we have to think about how we're putting all that content together and where people can go and access it. New Zealand On Screen is a great facility right now for looking at historical archived works for that have been produced in the past. We think that there should be a discussion about how we create a greater level of availability and accessibility for New Zealanders to the stuff that we've made about ourselves. So that's one mechanism that could be used to do that.
And you're also talking about a small copyright levy on internet access, which would provide funds for a digital platform like this and for content creators. Could this, something like a small copyright levy, actually help do away with the current copyright bill where people pay a certain amount to their internet service provider and that goes to the record companies, the movie producers and whatnot, and we don't have this ridiculous three strikes business?
Yeah, well, I think it's worthy of discussion. It's not a prescriptive part of our policy. We're saying we will do it. I think it's important to talk about a funding mechanism to try and enable people to have the ability to access all the stuff that's being produced inside our own country. But you also have to think about the people who are producing it. How do they make a living? And so that's why that's being put in there as a means of stimulating more public discussion around it. I think every country in the world is grappling with this issue at the moment. How do you make sure that your own citizens can access the content that's being created inside your country, and then how do you reward and pay the people who are creating it, and make it all available easily in a in a sort of as it happens manner online.
Because this really does blur the boundaries between policy areas. I mean, this is encroaching sort of on NZ on air territory, really, isn't it?
Well, I think what the internet has done is that it's entered every part of policy areas, every part of our lives, and it's made so many things available to people, but it's also raised a whole lot of issues about who has ownership and whether or not people should have to pay, and if they do, how they should pay. The micropayment model is being explored and is being successful. Look at iTunes, but again, that's you have to sign up to it, you have to subscribe, you have to pay a small amount of money to access music, but it is very successful, and you've got to think. I think we need to talk about models and how they could work inside New Zealand, and I think government should take some leadership role in this, because I think what we've seen is a big market failure with the traditional business models that have sort of woefully failed since the internet.
It sounds like a new area of responsibility, a new minister portfolio responsibility here.
Well, you'll see that that what we have put in place is the idea of creating a new ministry which brings together the ICT area and the broadcasting and, I guess, the internet responsibilities, and elevating that. But this whole policy is predicated on this idea that New Zealand should become a digital nation with digital Kiwis, and that we should close the digital divide. So that's, I guess, in order to do that, you need to have an area of government that's devoted to that.
A digital citizen.
A digital citizen, that's right.
Well,
I think you're already one, Wemo, aren't you?
Well, aren't we all? If we've got a Facebook page, isn't that like our digital passport these days? Scary as it is. Yeah. Hey, Clare Curran, thanks very much for joining us on the show.
You're welcome.
Clare Curran from the Labour Party with responsibilities there in information communications and technology.